Hi, I'm Katie, and let's get the knives out. So, a chef really, a foundational tool is, of course, our knives, and I just want to demystify some of the things around knife work. It's important to have a really good knife, but it's more important that you're comfortable with a knife. And there's nothing more comfortable for me than this knife that was a gift from my friend Ivan Orkin, who's a chef who was living and working in Japan at the time. And he called me and said, I'm going to be coming back to New York. Would you like me to have a knife made for you? I'm like, absolutely. So this was a handmade from a Japanese artisan. And I just love it because of the weight, the feel, the size. It's perfect. It's signed here. It's perfect for my hand. And I use it for everything except I don't use it for chopping very much because it has a very thin bevel. So the blade comes down to this beveled point, and I'm constantly using my honing steel on it because it's a very, very thin, sharp blade, but it can get out of alignment and then it performs like it's a dull knife. So knives don't need to be sharpened as often as people think, but they do need to be honed. So this, I think some people might think this is a sharpening steel, but it's actually a honing steel. So what it's doing is it's just straightening the blade so that it's as sharp as it can be. So the shape of this knife is largely similar to this knife, which is a chef's knife. This is a German-made knife, and it's got a heavier duty blade. I feel like this is an everyday knife, and you're not going to harm it. It's a harder, denser steel, but you'll notice with both of them, the tang goes all the way through. When you're buying a knife, you want to look for that. That just is a well-made knife, so that there's a continuous piece of steel that goes all the way through the handle, so it's not going to shear off or break in your hand or anything like this. It's a mark of our true work of art, these knives. So this knife, just to contrast the difference, it's a great slicing knife. It just goes through things very smoothly and easily. It's got this beautiful thin blade. I can do a beautiful julienne with this. And you want to use sort of the middle of the knife for a julienne. And you know, when you learn to cook as a young person and send you to cooking school, it's not art school, it's really craft school, it's a trade. And so you have to actually get fast and good because you really need to produce enough work to get a salary from cooking. So that knife's great for that. If I wanted to go through the core of the apple, I would probably use the heel of this denser knife because I'm going to go right through the core. I don't want to chip or damage the really fine bevel on this knife. So this knife I'm not concerned about because it's just a little sturdier. So I can go right through the tough seeds and the core. And it also benefits from that rocking motion, but it's just a little bit denser. You can go right down onto make a lot more contact with the cutting board without worrying about the blade. So this might be a really good knife for this kind of dicing activity where you're just kind of hitting the board a little bit firmer. But one of the reasons I do love wood is it's a forgiving material. It has a little bit of give to it, so it's not super hard on your knives. There are some cutting boards that are made out of acrylic, and I just don't have any communion with that surface at all, so I really like wood. And from what I understand, they've done a lot of studies that wood, when you clean wood, it's just as food safe and antimicrobial as any other surface. So I'm a big fan of wood cutting boards. But these knives are different. They're both beautifully made, but this one is, because of my personal connection to my friend who had it made for me, I feel like it's just my friend in the kitchen. I just use it all the time, but I use it in the right applications, respectfully, carefully.